All right, we are on video number 3. Again, remember, I'm going to show you the question, and then I want you to pause the video and attempt the question, and then go ahead and press play and watch me go through it, okay? So for this video, we're going to do two things. First, we're going to be graphing a line. So remember, this is the one where you're just going to move the dots around on the quiz. Obviously, on here, I'm not moving the dots around. I'm going to show you where the dots go, but on the quiz, you can just move the dots. And then we're going to do word problems on this video, okay? So we have 4 questions, so I want you to go ahead and pause your video and try to graph these. Okay, so for those that are paused, let's try these. So first and foremost, remember, we have y equals mx plus b. Again, m is that very first point we want to graph, and this is my y-intercept. And then m is my slope, which again is rise over run. So we're going to start off with the b. So in this first problem, my b is positive 1. So I'm going to, on my graph, put my first point at that positive 1 on the y-axis. Then from there, I'm going to graph my slope. Notice my slope is 2/3, so 2 over 3. So I'm going to rise 2 and run 3. So from this point, I'm going to count up 1, 2, and I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3. And then this will be that line. Simple as that. Okay, let's look at number 2. So number 2, again, I'm going to graph my y-intercept first. This time it's at -2. So I'm going to go down to -2 and put my first point. Now remember, we want to rise and we want to run. Right now we have just 3. Anytime I have a whole number, I always want to put it over 1. That way I have a rise and a run. Because 3 divided by 1 is still 3, so it doesn't change the value. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to run 1. So up 3 over 1, then I have that line. Perfect. 2 for 2. Okay, number 3. Notice here, I have no number in front of x. Now remember, anytime I have no number, that again still means I can add a 1, and I still want a fraction, so I'm going to put that over 1. So instead of having no number there, I have a 1 over a 1. So I'm going to start with my y-intercept, which in this case is a positive 4. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be my very first point. And then from there, I'm going to rise 1 and run 1. Line, right? If this was a negative x, again, this would be a -1, so I would go down 1 and then over 1, and it would just be the opposite direction, like this. Although that wasn't a negative x, so we're not going to worry about that. And then last but not least on here, we have a -3. So again, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3. So that's my -3. And then notice here I have a -2 over 4. -2, 4. So again, this negative goes with the 2, and so that's going to tell me I'm going to rise -2, which means I'm going to go down 2. And then I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So I should have a nice little line just like that. So again, double check those lines. Make sure that you know how to graph them. Again, keeping in mind that on that assignment, you are actually just going to be moving points around. But you want to move your point on your y-intercept first. Then you want to count your slope from there, okay? All right, now we have word problems. So remember, we're still looking at that y equals mx plus b. And the two numbers that we want to plug in is that m and that b. Remember that the m is our slope, or the number that's going to change, whereas our y-intercept is going to be our starting value, or the number that's not going to change. Okay? So if I go ahead and try a second to solve this problem, you want to write an equation, and you want to solve this last point. So it says, Joe rented a camper for a flat fee of $100 plus $10 per day. So which one of those numbers is the flat fee or the starting value, and then which one of those is going to be changing per day? Well, this one's my starting value, and this one's the amount that's going to change per day. So if I write that out, y equals my amount that's changing, so $10, my x plus my starting fee, which is $100. So if I only do 1 day, that's only $10, right? If I do 2 days, that's 20. 3 days is 30. 4 days is 50. So on, or 40 and 50 and so on, right? So this should be my equation. And then it says, how much will it cost after 6 days? Well, again, we're just going to plug in a 6 right here. And we're going to do 10 times 6 plus that 100 from that original amount. So 10 times 6 is 60. 60 plus 100 is $160 is how much it's going to cost her if she wants that camper for 6 days. Awesome. What about if I had an equation? So we're going to do one more of those word problems. Notice this one. So again, take a second, try it. Says Jill is on a diet. She weighs 190 pounds and she loses 5 pounds per week. Now, obviously, that's a crazy amount, but it's just a word problem. So here we go. Write a linear model that represents weight after m months. So again, that's just telling us to write an equation. It says fancy words like linear model, but it just means equation. So again, I have 5 pounds per week, so that's my changing amount. And I have my 190 pounds, which is my starting weight. Although notice this time it's losing weight, right? Which means we are going to write our equation where we are losing 5 pounds per, oh, this says month, so sorry. Let's change that one more time. We're going to use W for weeks. I wrote my problem wrong, I'm very sorry. So we're going to use W for weeks. So negative 5W, because that's going to be per week. I'm going to lose 5 pounds per week, plus my 190 pounds that I started with. So because we're losing weight, that's where we get our negative. And instead of having an X here, we're going to use a W because that's what it's telling me to use. So this should be my equation. So now let's see what we're going to do. With that equation, how much will she weigh in 5 months? Well, again, we're going to plug in a 5. So let's do negative 5 times 5 plus 190. So negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. Plus 190 is going to be 165 pounds. So within 5 months, she's going to weigh 165 pounds. Lastly, it says after how many months, so we don't know how many months this time, but after how many months will she be at her goal weight of 110 pounds? So we can solve this one of two ways. We can plug in our 110 right here, and then we can solve for what we're missing, which is our weeks. Or we can just keep counting, right? So we know that from 110 to 90 is 80 pounds. So she needs to lose 80 pounds. And we know that we're going to be losing 5 pounds per week, right? So if I divide this by 5, that's going to tell me how many weeks I have to wait in order to get down to my goal weight, right? So 80 divided by 5, let's see, is going to be 5 goes into 8 one time with 30 left over, so 16 weeks. It is going to take her 16 weeks before she's at her goal weight. And that's it. That is your 2 questions there. Again, this time it asks you what is food do I want you to write on the board. And we are going to say taco. T-A-C-O. One last video.